Baby girl, worthy woman, every one of us is worthy. So I am really excited, and as you can hear, I'm like trying to sing because today we're having a girl talk and we're gonna be talking about everything, literally everything to do with periods. And I am gonna start by defining what menstruation is. So, menstruation is generally the shedding of the uterus lining when the egg, which every woman releases monthly, is not fertilized or does not come together with the sperm to produce an embryo. Okay, in other words, when you're not pregnant, therefore the uterus lining is shed because it's like every month the uterus lining or the uterus prepares itself. It kind of thickens to prepare for the coming of a child or for pregnancy. And when that doesn't happen, that's when the uterus is shed. So that's what generally happens every month to any woman whose body is now sort of ready to give birth and in a state where a woman can get pregnant and actually give birth to a child. So this usually happens for like 3 to 7 days. And you know what's kind of interesting is the fact that you can actually tell when you are about to go on your period, and it's just a matter of really learning your body and observing your body. For example, your tummy might get a little bit bigger, or you just have these cramps that are not like constant, but then once in a while you like feel that something is not quite right with my tummy, like the lower tummy, not your stomach, the food one, but there's this like the lower part of your belly. Sometimes it just gets a little bit painful, and then you can have big aches and things like that, or sometimes it's just nauseous and all that. So this also applies to when you've actually never had your period. These signs and symptoms may go on for like 6 months before you actually finally really have your period, until the day that, well, you join the rest of us in this club. And I will not lie, sometimes a period can be very uncomfortable. Like, you're just uncomfortable. I can't really explain the feeling, but then especially when you have like the heavy flow and you have to change your pads or your tampons like 3 or 4 times a day, and really you just can't have a peace of mind. All you're thinking is what if I mess and things like that. So there are three uh ways that you can ensure that literally blood is not seen trickling down your legs. You can actually wear pads, and you have a few samples of pads, and these are always pads. And okay, they are long ones, probably to use during the night, because, well, you don't really get to like change 4 times at night because you want to rest. And then there are also scented pads and non-scented pads as well. So depending on your flow, you can decide whether you want long pads or short ones, which I believe most of us in Zimbabwe use. And there are also tampons. I do not have a tampon at this point, but yes, you can also use tampons or menstrual cups, which are like silicone cups that you just insert inside of your hole, which like holds it's basically like a cup that holds the blood as it comes, and then you can like change it twice a day depending on your flow. And this menstrual cup is washed by way of boiling it. Like, that's one way to sanitize it. You boil it in water as a way of sanitizing it. So those are generally the three methods that you can use to ensure that you do not have blood trickling down your legs, or you do not mess in public. And you know how when we had our first period, I used to pray that God, let it be at home, because if it's at school, sometimes like you can imagine that if it's an emergency, probably no one is appeared at that time, and then you're like, what should I do? And it would be really frustrating, especially if you're in primary school and you haven't had this kind of education. So I am going to show you a DIY pad, just in case one of these days you're caught unaware and you actually don't know what to do or how to help yourself. And okay, while I'm making this DIY pad, I have to mention that it is important that whether you're about to go on your period or not, that you always carry a pad with you. Sometimes you're not the one that's going to need it, but probably a sister is going to need it, because sometimes you're caught unaware, because the period is also affected by things such as mood. Like, for example, when I'm extremely happy or extremely sad, I tend to actually start my period, though like I had my period less than 14 days ago, but I can still, because bodies tend to react to things differently. So sometimes someone may really not be aware, not that they are reckless, but just because it just happens. So always make sure that you walk around with a pad. So what I have here is a roll of tissue. In case of emergency, what you simply do is sort of roll it out. Okay, you want to make it a little bit longer, so that when you sit, you're still as comfortable, and you can sort of just insert it in the middle of your pant, and you can have a good day. That's highly restful. And you also want to ensure that your tissue is kind of thick. If it's not thick enough, then it means you have to like roll a whole lot of tissue to ensure that you just make sure that it's thick and long enough to ensure that when you sit, you're comfortable. So instead of using a pad, you can actually use this, and then you just like put it in the middle of your pant, and something like that. It's not perfect, but something like this to make sure that you are as comfortable as you can. But then, like I said, always move around with an extra pad, because you do not know, sometimes you just literally gonna have an emergency. So for some people, they undergo what is called period pain, and some people are not even able to walk or go to work and things like that, because it's just that painful. Like when you have cramps are also a sign that soon you're going to be having your period. So I asked a few of my friends how they deal with period pain, and these were some of their suggestions. So I'm literally going to be reading and according to what they told me. And shout out to all my friends, especially Melissa, who helped me with this, because she's a pharmacist, so I had to like get most of my stuff from her. And okay, the first one is ginger. So some chew raw ginger, and some sort of like chop it and then drink it in warm water. But this goes on a daily, whether you're on your period or not. So it's just like a thing that you have to do always, not that the week before your period, or when you feel that you're now beginning to have stomach cramps, but you literally always do it. So ginger is a way of doing it. And then use a hot water bottle, like you just place it on the part of your belly that's painful at that time. It really helps to deal with the stomach cramp and the period pain. So take a warm shower. I don't know how this works, but yes, taking a warm shower. Generally, when you bath, you kind of feel different. You feel more rested, and you feel like your pores have been opened. And I'm sure taking a warm shower will just ensure that you get better. Like, okay, someone is probably wondering, what is period pain? So it's a pain that you feel. Sometimes it's like a sharp pain that just goes through your lower belly, or sometimes you feel like cramp. Like, have you ever been cramped whereby you feel like blood is not flowing in a certain part of your body? But well, that's kind of different. Well, it's like you just feel a cramp. I'm sure you know what a cramp is, but yes, that's what you feel. And so many people have been going through this period pain, and these are ideas that they gave to me to ensure that your period is as smooth and comfortable as possible. So number 4 is to avoid fatty, sweet, and spicy food. So this is very funny because when I ask some of my friends to give me suggestions as to how they deal with with period pain, somewhere like chocolate, and then I'm like, no, let's be honest, it doesn't actually heal or cause you to feel a little bit better, but then it works as comfort food, like comfort food, that food that you take like when you're depressed or when you just did a heartbreak, just to make sure that you feel a little bit better. But it's not really that chocolate works. Instead, it's being said, avoid fatty, sweet, and spicy food. Number 5 is to make sure that your feet are warm. I remember when I was in high school, this nun who was our teacher always used to say that don't sit directly on the floor because it will definitely catch up with you. Like if you sit directly on the floor, like always make sure that you're warm generally in your life. Like ensure that your feet are warm, your body is warm, so that I don't know how it technically works, but to ensure that your period will also be as smooth as possible. And then number 6 is take Antidote Pills. Antidote Pills. You can find this at a pharmacy, chemist, whatever you call it, or take an NSAID, which is an anti-inflammatory drug, such as Brufen, just days before. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this. That some people, just to ensure that they regulate their period well enough, or to ensure that, like sometimes your period is so inconsistent, you can't even tell when or how your period is gonna work, if you're actually going to be on your period this week or next week, and it becomes so confusing and you're not sure. But then what you can do is take contraceptive pills. Contraceptive pills help to ensure that your period is regular. Like you can like take contraceptive pills for like 3-4 months, and then in the fifth month, if that's when you want to go on your period, then it kind of regulates. But I want to let you know that there are always side effects to taking drugs, like all these pills, that you can lose your appetite, you can increase in weight, and even your skin may not really respond well to that particular medication or drugs that you'll be taking. So you really have to be careful and know your body well enough, that how does it react when you take certain medications. So yes, you may take contraceptive pills to ensure the regulation of your period, and you can take this anti-inflammatory drugs such as Brufen, but always make sure that you're careful enough on how you use them. Make sure not to overdose, but still want you alive. So ensure that everything is in order. Don't overtake or overdo or get addicted, because also that's a risk, that sometimes when you like want to go on a trip and then you just want to ensure that you do not actually have a period, and then you begin to take these drugs, and sometimes you may get so addicted that you always want to take these drugs even when it's not necessary for you to take the drugs. Like sometimes probably you're going on a business trip and you really need, or on a fun trip with your friends and you really need to have the best time. Like I myself love, I love water, and if you want to play in water, but then unfortunately you know that if you're on your period, it's kind of going to ruin everything and you want to regulate. Well, it's not really an excuse, but then I would excuse you. Not just when you're at home, like just staying at home or you're on holiday, but then you still decide to take the drugs. So do not become addicted, but just use them for only the right purposes. Yes, contraceptive pills, those were number 8. I already mentioned they regulate your period and ensure that you're also comfortable enough. And if you don't like a heavy flow, contraceptive pills can also kind of work around that. Number 9 is aloe. In Shona, we call it kawa kawa. So you can just kind of chew it, or um, uh, remove the skin, then you chop it, and then actually drink the remain of what you boil out of it. So to ensure that you know, or you can predict when you're actually going to have your period, there are different apps from Apple and from Android, and I personally use an app that's called Clover. So what I generally do is I log in the days when I'm on my period, and sometimes I also log in my feelings, if I've gained weight, how I feel, if I'm on drugs. Okay, which I'm not. And you can log in many different things, such as if you're currently having sex, if you're taking contraceptive pills, you log in all those things so that it can actually help you predict when you will be having your next period. So a period is generally a cycle of 28 days. So after every 28 days, you'll be going on your period. So this kind of helps to predict, and it's not always accurate, but then it's generally around that time of the month. It can be 3 days earlier or on time, or 3 days late, but generally you know when to be away and when to walk cautiously, knowing that my period could be anytime soon. Now, the most important thing that I have to say is that this is not something that is bad, but we were created by God in that way. It's not something that we should be ashamed of. I remember the first days, I would be shy to ask my brother to buy me pads and things like that, till I got to a point where I realized, what, this is the most normal thing that can ever happen to any woman. Always remember that a period is totally normal, and you're not weird, you're not abnormal, and it's just because you're a woman and you're special and you're worthy that you actually go through this process. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something from this video, and please, 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 if you want more videos of this kind, or if you can relate to anything that I've said, if you'd love to give advice about periods, please drop your comment in the comment section below. And please, it would mean so much to me if you commented, if you liked, and you subscribe to this channel, if you referred more people to this channel. I love you so much. Have an amazing period this month. Bye. Mm, 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 mm.